Today, I want to introduce you to an item which has the power to change the world into a world which is more just, more safe, and more sustainable for all of us. Into a world which is also more human, where human relations matter more than consumption. I was introduced to this power of this ball when I was visiting a friend, and I bought this for his 4-month-old son. While my friend was making dinner, I took out this ball and I rolled it to my little playmate. As the ball progressed towards my little playmate, I'm realizing maybe my expectations is a bit off. I don't know if any of you have small children, small nephews or something like that, who might guess what is happening. But what happened was that instead of engaging into the game, my little playmate closed its eyes and tried to avoid my ball. So you can imagine I was quite disappointed at that time, and I felt I need to understand what is going on. That was the moment where I understood what anticipatory systems are and that they can differ. That has helped me a lot in my personal and professional life, and what I learned is that when we want to do something together, we need first to have a foresight, we need to look into the future, and we need to prepare for it. Now, foresight and preparation together are anticipation. What I also understood was that we need to synchronize in order to engage in such collaborative anticipation, in order to make great things happen. I also understood that it can be a very powerful feeling to synchronize in that way. I also learned that I was just a bit early actually with my little playmate, because roughly when we're 8 months old, we understand how to engage into a game of throwing a ball back and forth. Have you experienced ever this power of collaborative anticipation? It provides us energy and allows us to do great things together. Collaborative anticipation can be directed at the future far away. And it can also be just used to engage in a game. So think about your own life. Can you remember situations in which you have participated in collaborative anticipation? One vivid memory of mine was when I was as a German boy on holiday in France. And communication was not so easy with my playmates, so sometimes it was more gestures than words. But suddenly, this collaborative anticipation happens. We were close to a river, there were rocks, and we were figuring, river, rocks, the only thing which is missing is a dam. So we went to work, and 4 hours later, when our parents came and said that dinner's ready, and we were all muddy and wet, very happy, and we have probably built the most magnificent dam ever built by mankind. Or so I remember. So what I understood there is this power which can be unlocked when you have this joint vision about your future. Can you remember a situation where you felt this power in a group of people? Another vivid memory of mine was when I was bicycling with my brother in a park, and we suddenly had this idea we could fly like birds. So my brother takes his hands off the steering, or of the handlebar, spreads his wings, and flies through the park. And me too, I take the hands off the handlebar and I spread my arms, and well, I was much smaller at that time, the wheels were also much smaller, and the entire bicycle was much less stable, so I didn't anticipate to what came next, but what it also gave me was this power to wanting to achieve what my brother achieved, to do that together. And this is something which fuels you and fueled me until I was able to also cycle a bicycle without the hands on the handlebar. It was then years later that I asked myself, well, is that collaborative anticipation a source of energy which is only available to children? Or can we also in our adult life harness that? What I looked into is the world around me. I started to reflect, and after much reflection, I believe that yes, this power is with us if we want it. If you think about it, building social capitalism, where the powerful share wealth with the needy in order to create a sufficient societal cohesion that we can live in harmony together, makes life better for everyone, including the powerful. But that requires foresight and collaborative anticipation. If you think about it, also building railroads across continents when all we know is horse carriages, you will say, well, that requires a lot of sophisticated engineering, and that's also true. But it also requires that we understand the system which we can build, which can be much better than the system which is replaced. And also where we stand here today in Europe, peaceful, prosperous place, has not always been like that. I grew up in Western Berlin behind the Iron Curtain in all directions. And we were in Europe in the business of starting to kill each other every 30 years or so often. So building the European Union as a safe place for everyone to live in harmony requires a lot of collaborative anticipation. And later, working in large corporate organizations, I started to consider again, yes, maybe it is rare that we are synchronized in this way, that our ambitions, our actions are synchronized. So I was wondering, can we build this capacity for collaborative anticipation together? And that was the moment where I was interested to turn collaborative anticipation into organizational anticipation. So in our research group, we have benchmark companies for over 15 years. We investigated methods, tools, and processes which leading organizations use. We looked at what is it leading organizations leverage on to drive transformation of their own company and transformation of the industries. And we described organizational anticipation in a capability model. And that capability model allows us to do two things. One is that we compare organizations, identify best practices so that they can share what works. And the second thing is that we also want to assess whether companies have a sufficiently high level of collaborative anticipation in order to make meaningful transformations possible and help us to build a more just, safe, and livable place. In our research, we find 3 capabilities which matter most. We need first to synchronize our perception. To build collaborative foresight, we need to engage in scanning for drivers of change. We need to not only focus on drivers of change which brought us where we are, but we need to also look into the periphery around our organization and direct our attention towards the future. We are then also engaged in probing into the future as a leading organization, where we engage with startup companies, we engage with people we don't normally engage with, in order to be able to open our mind and create the capacity for organizational learning. And thirdly, and most importantly, we need to be able to invite each other to these mental time travels. We want to invite each other in organizations to, with open eyes, reperceive uncertainty as opportunity, be able to find this energy which allows us to create meaningful change. Our research has also shown that firms with strong organizational anticipatory capabilities outperform their less prepared rivals by high margins. So, for example, it shows that in a 7-year time frame, we found that these firms, which we call Vigilant, grew 3 times as fast as the average. We also found that they are capable of having a profitability 33% higher than the average. And most importantly, they're able to go beyond the status quo. They are capable of making what we call meaningful strategic moves. And it is this capability which brings me back to my little ball here. Like a baby which reperceives its world around us and discovers everything anew, we need to invite our organizations to also reperceive the world around them. We need to be able to engage in our organizations with the future in new ways. We need to ensure that we're not feeling stuck in a pre-written history, that we are not capable of altering our fate. We need to make sure that companies are ready to question their business models and talk with each other in order to create more sustainable industries. We also need collaborative foresight to build visions in industries. For instance, visions around circularity in industries, in value chains. This is something we can only do together. We also need to invite companies to rediscover creativity, build an open mindset, and be ready to rediscover optimism and the entrepreneurial spirit on which they have built eventually earlier, and make them part of the solution of creating a better world which is more just, more safe, and more livable for all of us. My little ball also symbolizes for me our responsibility towards future generations. The urgency to act and also our capacity to act together. In that respect, I cannot help to be reminded about the opening remarks of Barack Obama of the first UN Climate Summit, where he was actually quoting the governor of Washington State, Jay Ely, in a quote which resonated with me for a long time. We are the first generation to feel the impact of climate change, and we are the last generation who can do something about it. This is a quote which has been used a lot. But in the context of collaborative anticipation, we see also what we need to be able to do together. What is key for us is that we are able to engage in envisioning different futures, feel excited about it, and then use the energy of collaborative foresight to drive meaningful change. This little ball I want to pass today to you, to invite you to rediscover your own personal anticipatory capabilities, but also to take your capacity to engage in collaborative anticipation in the organizations you're going to work in. It is important that we create this capacity to invite each other not only to the mental time travel, but also to working together. Now feel free to pass this ball here within the room and beyond, and I'm counting on you to create meaningful change together with all of us. Here you go.